This is Rocky Marciano. In a few moments, you will hear my greatest sports thrill.
This is Harry Wismer. What you are about to hear is a transcribed story of one of the world's outstanding heavyweight fighters and a sports event our special guest, Rocky Marciano, considers his greatest sports thrill. And Rocky himself is here to tell us all about it. But first, here is Bill Reddick with a message of interest from your United States Air Force.
The finest training with an expert coach. That's a basic requirement for an athlete to reach the top fast. Good insurance for high school seniors and graduates, too, who want to get ahead faster and secure their future. That's why more and more young men look to the United States Air Force, because as airmen, they can secure their future and get training that will really pay off. As an airman, you may qualify for the world's finest technical training in one of more than 400 specialized subjects. And while you learn, you earn full pay. You'll advance as high as your interest and ability can take you, and you'll train with plenty of friendly, wide-awake young men like yourself. So get your career off to a head start. Train as an airman. Remember, you'll go places faster with the U.S. Air Force. Check with your nearest Air Force recruiter. Now back to Harry Wismer.
Rocky Marciano, the strong, sweet-socking, solid man from Brockton, Massachusetts, has been heavyweight champion of the world since September 1953. His stature as a fighter has been slower to accept than his stature as a man. But today, when his punching power finally has earned him universal respect as one of the foremost knockout artists in the history of the ring, Rocky stands supreme among contemporary boxers as the ideal combination of fighting man and sportsman. The Rock, as everyone calls him, has everything. No fancy Dan boxer, he throws technique to the winds when he climbs between the ropes. He fights as though his very life were at stake. Rocky is rarely set to outpoint anybody in an exhibition of boxing skill. He is always in there to score a knockout. Like many another great fighter before him, Jack Dempsey, for example, Marciano was a split personality. An out-and-out killer in the ring, he is the mildest, friendliest, most loyal man outside of it. Thanks to the murderous impact of his Sunday punch, Marciano has scored 43 knockouts in his 49 fights, all of which he naturally has won. Rocky, who was born on September the 1st, 1924, was 18 years old when he pulled his induction papers out of the mailbox in March 1943. He felt no particular pain at the prospect of becoming a buck private. While in service, he wasted little time entering the various boxing tournaments here and in Europe after his group was sent overseas. On July 12, 1948, in Providence, Rhode Island, Rocky had his first professional fight of record and stopped his man in one round. A week later, he was fed another gentle opponent, and he too was KO'd in the first round. The knockouts continued, one after another. As Rocky had been climbing the ladder in New England, a young college boy named Roland LaStarza had been making the same advancements in New York. A meeting between the two was a natural. On March 24, 1950, the two unbeaten young heavyweights, LaStarza, winner of 37 straight, as against Marciano's 26 in a row, faced each other at Madison Square Garden. Marciano won a close split decision. The Marciano saga moved into a new phase. Rocky was firmly established as a contender now. He had 5 fights between June and September, and he won 4 of them by knockouts. On December 31st, after taking time out to get married to the daughter of a member of the Brockton Police Department and a short honeymoon in Miami, he was ready to face the best. In all his fights, Marciano had demonstrated that while he may not be the most polished fighter to hit the big time, he carried a bumper charge of dynamite in each hand. In one of the most exciting heavyweight championship bouts in history, the Brockton blockbuster followed the script by knocking out Jersey Joe Walcott in the 13th round, after the incredible old champion had moved into a commanding lead on points. Rocky Marciano was losing this fight, and he knew it. He had to knock Walcott out to become the champion, and he wanted that title badly. Let's go back to the night of September 22nd, 1952, at Philadelphia's Municipal Stadium. And there's the bell ending the 12th round. Fans, this been one of the greatest fights I've ever seen. Marciano and Walcott have been at each other for 12 rounds, with neither fighter giving ground. It's a throwback to those finished fights of another era. They have slugged and punched each other relentlessly and have even fought after the bell 4 times. This crowd of more than 40,000 frenzied fans who paid over $500,000 seems to feel that there is an upset in the making because Marciano, an 8-5 favorite, is definitely behind on points to Walcott with only 3 more rounds to go. Jersey Joe, right at the very start, set the pattern for this fight when he decked Rocky with a whistling left hook to the jaw in the very first round for the count of 4. Marciano came back strong in the middle rounds, but Walcott has roared back with a vengeance in the last 2. Rocky's seconds have been working on his cut forehead and nose since the early rounds, while over in the champion's corner, they are checking his badly bruised left eye. It's been that kind of a battle, and something's gotta give real soon. And there's the bell for round 13. Marciano in that half crouch moves slowly out of his corner to meet Walcott. Always pressing, his fists are always in position to strike. Walcott backing off in that famous shuffle, keeps pawing at the challenger with his left hand. Now Marciano brushes off a left thrown by Jersey Joe and counters with a left of his own to the body and right to the side of Walcott's head, and they fall into a clinch. The referee breaks them apart. Now Walcott parries a long left to the head and blocks a right to the body thrown by Marciano. Over on the far side of the ring, Rocky shoots a sharp left to the body and drives Joe into the rope. Now a looping right-hand shot lands high in the head of Jersey Joe, and he's hurt. The champion is hurt. Marciano moves in quickly. There's a left to the face and another right hand to the jaw, landed by the challenger, and Walcott is down. A punch that didn't travel more than 18 inches has decked the champion, and he's half draped over the bottom strand and half sitting down. 4, 5, 6. Marciano standing in a neutral corner, and this crowd has gone absolutely wild. 8, 9. Walcott hasn't moved. It's all over! All over! Winner and new heavyweight champion of the world, Rocky Marciano. Marciano's knockout of Walcott was a fitting ending to a genuinely spectacular battle, worth every cent the fans paid to see it. Overnight, in fact, in the single shattering second it took for that destructive right hand to explode flush against Joe Walcott's jaw, everything had changed for Rocky Marciano. The Brockton blockbuster was now the heavyweight champion of the world, a slugging successor to John L. Sullivan, Jim Corbett, Jack Dempsey, and Joe Louis. There were no jeers now, only cheers. Cheers that echoed in every city and every town in America. And now, before you meet our special guest, Rocky Marciano, in person and hear about his greatest sports thrill, here is a message of interest to all young men who want to go places faster.
You young men are probably giving lots of thought to the future. You know that the decisions you make now can affect your entire life. And that's why we say, give a thought to being an airman in the United States Air Force. The Air Force offers many advantages. As an airman, you can continue your education, receive the finest training in the world, and be paid to learn. As an airman, you may qualify for any one of more than 40 different career fields. As an airman, you'll be a member of the greatest young man's team in the country. You'll enjoy opportunities for world travel and adventure, plenty of excitement and good times, plus the admiration and prestige that always goes with Air Force Blue. On the ground or in the air, you'll go places faster as an airman. See your nearest United States Air Force recruiter now. Now back to Harry Wismer.
Rocky Marciano, what was your greatest sports thrill?
I have had many sports thrills. Beating Roland Lastaza at Madison Square Garden for my first main event was a big thrill for me. The Rex Lane fight in Madison Square Garden was also a thrill for me because he was such a top-heavy favorite to win that fight. The Joe Louis fight was much of a thrill for me because the man whom I thought was the greatest that ever lived was on the deck, and I had done it. But the biggest thrill of them all was the night I fought Jersey Joe Walcott at Philadelphia for the heavyweight championship of the world. I was losing the fight. I had been hurt many times, and then being able to knock out a great champion that night was to me the biggest thrill of my boxing career.
For a boxer to get in real top-notch condition for a bout, what sacrifices must you make?
There are many, many sacrifices one must make to be in top-notch condition for a fight. I do not smoke, drink, or go to bed after 10 o'clock. I trained for 2 months, away from home, up in the hills of New York State, with plenty of road work, 2 meals a day, and 5 days a week. I work out for better than 2.5 hours every afternoon. I box more than 200 rounds for a championship fight, and practically lead the life of a hermit.
As a youngster, did you have any fighter as an idol, or one that you especially admired?
Yes, Joe Louis captured my imagination. He was the fighter whom I read all about. I know his life backwards. He was so great in his youth that I just couldn't follow any other fighter.
Rocky, what can our young fellows gain by taking up boxing as a sport, even though they may never fight professionally?
Harry, I've noticed that many fellows who start to take up the fight game and then do not follow through, they have gained much. Self-confidence, for one. I noticed that if a fellow is able to take care of himself with his 2 hands in any situation, that he becomes a good citizen, because he does not resort to knives, rocks, or guns. He is able to take care of himself amongst the other fellows, and that is the self-confidence which we must all have, or should have.
Rocky, your early athletic career was spent on the playgrounds of Brockton. Of what value are these town recreation programs to the youngsters?
The best way to answer that, Harry, is in Brockton, Mass., where we have plenty of playgrounds, there is practically no juvenile delinquency. We have a town that is free of that because we have so many organized teams, especially baseball. In my neighborhood alone, over 25 fellows have had tryouts with minor league teams. All good athletes. Very few have taken up boxing, but all of them have become great American citizens.
Rocky, you've been through the mill as an amateur, prelim boy, and now heavyweight champion of the world. How do you feel about the boxing game today?
Harry, the boxing game has always been the biggest thing in my life. It's a game where you have to outsmart the other fellow, outthink him, and probably outcondition him, as well as outfight him. It's always been a game to me. I have enjoyed every one of my fights along with the training period. I think boxing has a lot in store for youngsters. It develops the mind, the body, and self-confidence. A youngster that wants to become a professional fighter finds out soon enough whether the game is for him or not.
Thank you very much, Rocky Marciano, heavyweight champion of the world.
Greatest Sports Thrills with top personalities in the world of sports is narrated by Harry Wismer, directed by Gene Kirby, written by Arthur Suskin Jr., and presented by the United States Air Force in cooperation with this station. This is Bill Reddick speaking. The preceding was transcribed.